He's Tony George. I'm Scott Spreitzer. We've got Penn State, Ohio State. We've got the Packers, Niners, and a whole lot more on this week's 10 and 10. Stick around, DocSports.com. Hey everybody, a lot to talk about on this week's 10 and 10. Before we jump into that, a quick note, if you've yet to become a member over at DocSports.com, it's a real cool way to give it a trial run. You click on the link below this video, you get yourself set up for a free $60 account. You can use that on his daily plays, my daily plays, anybody else over at DocSports.com on the roster. Again, $60 free account, and it comes with the Doc Sports guarantee. Let's jump into it. Tony George, we got Michigan laying 8.5 at Indiana as we speak. And the Wolverines, well, they're gearing up for Ohio State. They're playing a better brand of football. Indiana, no pushover. They've covered 6 of the last 7.
Indiana has covered some games this year. They beat our beloved Huskers.
Yep.
They look good doing it in Lincoln here. Indiana, though, however, has dropped 23 straight in this series here. But you're catching Michigan in they're coming off the Michigan State game, which surprisingly they won with ease. They have Ohio State on deck. Indiana is kind of a dangerous team here on the road. Looks like a little bit of a trip-up spot for Michigan as they get ready to take on Ohio State next week, Scott. Texas A&M taking on Georgia. Georgia got it done for me last week on a premium play in a very hard-fought game. Georgia laying 13 to Jimbo Fisher's crew, total 45.5.
Biggest question to me is, can they get to 13?
Yeah,
That's the problem with this offense.
Right.
I mean, you look at last week, they jumped out 21-0 against Auburn. Next thing you know, it's 21 to 14 with about 7 minutes to go in the contest. So once again, the Bulldogs offense went MIA. They gained just 251 yards, less than 4 yards per play against an Auburn defense that gave up over 500 yards to LSU. Georgia's never going to be mistaken for LSU this year on offense, and Fromm had a bad game, 13 of 28, 110 yards. But the thing he did well, 3 touchdown passes, no picks. He's not making massive or major or costly mistakes since that South Carolina game, playing a little bit better. Now the Bulldogs come in on a 5-0 under run. How about 26-9-2 under their last 37 home games? I think you're going to see another low-scoring game. It's 45.5. I like the under. I thought it would. I thought you'd get emotional.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Pac-12 action. Tony, Oregon laying about 14.5 at Arizona State. Sun Devils 1-6, spread slide at home.
Yeah, I'll tell you what right now. Of course, Oregon secured their spot last week in the Pac-12 game. Now there's talk about getting into the Final Four. There's been some shakeups there, obviously. There's still some opportunities. There's still some big games out there. And I think that Oregon is going to continue to bring their A game here. This is a lot of points. We'll find out how good Herbert is because Arizona State, despite their recent woes, have one of the better pass rushes in the Pac-12.
Sure.
He's going to be under some heat. If he can perform, I think maybe Oregon can aim the score in this game, especially the way Arizona has fallen. And we're going to switch gears here. Speaking of the fallen, Scott, Baylor last week. Could you blow a better position than that at home? 25-point lead. End up grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory, taking on a Texas team who I took as a premium last week, as Herman continues to cover numbers. One thing about this game, Scott, last week I did see Texas tried to protect the lead late in that game. Herman did. As good a coach he is, and it cost him the ball game. He's coming in here as a 5.5-point dog. Total 59. They're expecting some scoring in this one.
Had both of these teams last week, so we cashed them both just like you had Texas last week. And it was a drag because I was rooting for Baylor to win that game outright, up 31-10 at one point. They got the win. They got the cover, I should say.
Well, it's Nebraska. Us Nebraska boys, first of all, we're going Big 12. Second of all, we're from Nebraska, so we both hate Oklahoma. So we were...
Better dead than sooner red, as we still live by that motto, or that decree. But I'll tell you what, as far as Baylor is concerned, listen, are they as talented as Texas? I said this about the game against Oklahoma last week. Are they as talented as Texas? No, they are not. But they've got a great coach, obviously, in Matt Rule, who's going to be NFL bound in the next few years, unfortunately, for Baylor Bears fans. I had Texas before the season. We gave out some futures at an 8-unit play, under 9 wins. Well, they just took their 4th outright loss, which is great. Love it. And that's a good thing for us on that future play, but they covered the spread, which made it doubly sweet. We like that. Tony mentioned Tom Herman's record as a dog, as a head coach. Well, he's 15-4 against the spread, and he's won a bunch of those outright as a dog. Here's the kicker, man. 19 times his teams have been an underdog. they've averaged 30 points as a dog. It held the chalk, those 19 teams, to 26 points per game. Tough spot for Baylor, Tony, coming off that loss. Here's the marquee matchup, Tony. Penn State at Ohio State, back to the Big Ten. The Buckeyes laying 18. We'll say this quickly because we're going to save this for our marquee video, but the Bucks 8-2 against the spread this year, winning by 6 touchdowns per game. Meanwhile, the Nittany Lions have covered 4 of the last 5 meetings. More on that on the marquee matchup.
That's true. Still, before we get the marquee matchup, just one comment. You and I said on our BCS preview show a couple weeks ago, it's still on the YouTube channel. You and I, 3-4 weeks ago, thought that Ohio State was the best team in the country. I still think they're the best team in the country. I don't know if they're worth laying 18 in a game like that, but tune into the marquee matchup. Scott, we're going to switch gears to the NFL here. New Orleans Saints recovered nicely last week, to say the least. Opened up as a 7-point favorite, now up to 9.5, total 47 against the Panthers, who look like a dog turned to cantaloupe patch last week.
I'm going to say this much about this. First of all, Tony and I, as you know, we do these 10 and 10s. And we don't do a whole lot of patting on the back and self-congratulations and all that kind of stuff. He had an 8-unit winner last week in the NFL. I had an 8-unit winner last week in the NFL. We're both on real nice runs. And I say this because I want to say that the one loss I had in the NFL last week was going against the New Orleans Saints and betting those Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh.
And I got a follower on Twitter, and it was really cool because he direct messages me, and he's from Vegas, and we go back and forth. A good guy. And he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm a Florida State grad. He goes, but I'm done with Jameis Winston. And I said, you know, I've been kind of stubborn with Jameis because he stinks on ice sometimes. But I think it's going to be tough to back him even in good spots. He threw 4 more picks against New Orleans. That score, the final score, wasn't quite as bad as the score itself would indicate. But again, +4 turnover ratio for the Buccaneers. Thank you very little, Jameis Winston. As far as this game is concerned, Kyle Allen has hit the skids after having a great start for his time as quarterback for Carolina. 3 touchdown passes, 9 picks in his last 4 games. Boy, 9.5 is a lot to lay in a divisional matchup, but it's tough to jump on Kyle Allen right now.
Well, one thing I've noticed about Carolina, their run defense is not what it has been in the past.
Sure.
And Kamara could have a big day. If Kamara is on your fantasy team, you're going to be real happy this Sunday. And second of all, Scott, I'm sorry to hear that you took Jameis Winston off the Christmas card list this year.
He's done. He's completely stick a fork in him. Jags at Titans, Tony. Titans lay at 3, 41.5. It's an interesting game for a lot of perspectives, but Tony, it's a situation where the Titans are laying 3, some juice on that, and some shops at midweek. Titans getting sharp money, and by the way, you're going to want to check out our video when it comes to biggest percentage plays so far midweek on NFL games, because this Jags versus Titans game, that's going to be a featured play, a featured game when it comes to the betting report video, so check that out. But anyway, Tony, Jags at Titans laying the field goal.
Well, Tannehill's played well.
Sure.
He really has, and they beat my Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Kansas City hitting 71%, 8 touchdown passes. But I think this line might be a little bit of an overreaction to how the Jags played last week, and this is a little bit of a learning lesson tip. Never react or overreact too significantly to what you saw the week before. You know, when it comes to certain teams develop bad trends, like Jameis Winston throwing interceptions nonstop all year long, or this, that, or the other, or Kansas City inability to stop the run for the most part. Some things stay consistent, but at the end of the day, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to what happened to the Jaguars last week. And of course, Titans have had some time off after that Kansas City game to get it together here. So we're going to talk about that in another video. Check that out. Cowboys taking on the Patriots. I took some heat online for taking the Patriots as my game of the year last week.
Well, Tony, they're only 47-20 against the spread. You know, what were you doing on the Patriots?
I don't have any off a bye week, off a loss with the best quarterback in the history of the game, and of course the best head coach in the history of the game, laying less than 4 for the first time all year. Yeah, I might take them. They're laying a little bit more than that in this one, Scott. Taking on the Dallas Cowboys, laying 6.5 right now. Foxborough 46. And one thing I just wanted to note, if you take a look at the stats in this, Dak Prescott's having a hell of a lot better year than Tom Brady, and yet they're catching 6.5 here. Are your thoughts?
Well, I'll just say this. It's our marquee matchup, so I'm going to leave my thoughts for the marquee video. But again, they're on a 47-20 spread run. You go all the way back to when Belichick and Brady first hooked up, when Brady first became the starting quarterback for New England. We're talking like 15 years. they're 60% against the spread.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't fault anybody for taking the Patriots at any time. What I can fault people is when they go against the New England Patriots in regular season action. How about Sunday Night Football, Tony? We got a good one, at least on paper, and I think it'll translate to the field. Packers at the Niners. Niners laying 3. The total sitting at 46. So a great matchup, marquee game. You got the great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, fantastic coaching job, and players executing extremely well for the Niners in this one. Laying a field goal on the Niners, juice is kind of on them, and of course it's up to 3.5 in some shops.
Well, what interests me in this game is a couple of things. You have an established football team that knows how to win. They're on the road.
Sure.
They're off a bye week, off a very poor performance, where Aaron Rodgers said, look, it's a wake-up call, no big deal. Now we're going to work on the flaws. Remember, this game last year was 33-30 at Lambeau. It was a last-second grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory for the 49ers. So they've had this one circled since the schedule came out. They have the team to compete, but the biggest advantage I see in this game, let me refer back to what I just said, 33-30 last year. The total's 46. I'm kind of thinking this is going to be my free 10-10 play on the Sunday night game, which I don't like to give out the marquee games for free, but I do think there's going to be some scoring in this game, Scott. I think 46 might be a little right.
Yeah, I can't disagree with the total there. I think it's a situation where they got to open things up a little bit more. They got to do it a little bit earlier, talking about San Francisco in the passing game, because Jimmy Garoppolo has not shown the ability to take the entire offense or the onus of the offense on his shoulders. And I think what you got to do there is start to play action a little bit on the early downs, not just wait until third down and long and obvious passing downs. I can't disagree with you there.
Yeah, and by the way, the key here is hopefully, and the word is, they're going to get Kittle back at tight end, because that would be like Kansas City being without Travis Kelce. That's how big of a part of the offense he is. So you folks, we're taping these early in the week. You definitely want to watch those injury reports and see if he's going to play, because that's going to change the dynamic of this game in a big, big way. Scott, let's switch to, I believe this is our last one here, and this is a good game here, at least on paper. Seattle traveling to Philadelphia, fresh off a 10-point offensive performance against a tougher defense than what they're going to see this week, obviously, in the Patriots here. But Eagles, a little surprised. They're opened up. They're a 1.5-point favorite as we tape this, 48, and I saw a lot of love online today for Seattle.
Well, I got more love on the over. And you're talking a total that's upwards as high as 49 now at this point. But and again, we're cutting these early in the week, but this will be my free 10-10 play. Will be over 49 Seahawks and Eagles. And listen, Russell Wilson has just been like a hot knife through butter against Jim Schwartz defenses, and that's who he's facing in this particular game, the DC for the Philadelphia Eagles.
MVP year, by the way.
Exactly. If he keeps going the way he is, it's going to be tough to beat for the MVP. But on the flip side, listen, I know that Philly's receiving core is not speedy by any stretch of the imagination. Alshon Jeffrey may come back this week. He's not your speed burner. It's Deshaun Jackson, but of course Deshaun Jackson is banged up. However, the Seattle defense, their DVOA is basically bottom third in the NFL.
Right.
Carson Wentz isn't as mobile as he used to be. We saw it again last week against New England, but I like both of these teams to put some points on the board. Seattle's on a 14-5 overrun, 7-2 last 9 road games to the over. It's going to be my 10-10 free play over between Seattle and the Eagles.
I'm not stealing your thunder. Scott Spreicher's over there. I'm over in the Packers and 49ers game. We're going to break down a couple of marquee games. Be sure to check out the marquee matchups. We're going to give you some interesting angles from inside Vegas perspective on some added videos. And guys, next week, by the way, we're going to be doing the 10-10. We're going to do 5 and 5. 5 from his house, 5 from my house. It's Thanksgiving week. We're going to skip a week on the official 10-10. But check out our individual YouTube pages. Click that link in the description below. Go get yourself free $60. Come see us at Docs. See you on the marquee matchups. Thanks for tuning in.